Trying to cut right to the good stuff these days. This topic, how you doing, June? um, this topic, I just want to take a minute to talk about something that keeps coming up. I see online quite a bit. Scott Adams brought it up. I don't know, David Rubin. I'm not sure which side he's on, but there's a group of people out there who are trying to suggest that there's no such thing as free will. Okay? No such thing as free will. And this comes directly from Schrodinger's supposition or his proposition that if you could somehow know all of the particles in the universe and you knew their direction and their speed, that you could say exactly what was going to happen in the future. And of course, we presume that this is true to some extent with physical reality, disregarding, of course, the quantum phenomenon problem. And Schrodinger is one of these people who would say that there is no free will, that you are, in fact, just responding to stimuli in your environment, and that whatever the stimuli are, that's what you're doing. And there's nothing inside of you except for physics. And I mean, at some level, that seems to make sense, right? But no, it's wrong. It's wrong. And I'm going to make my case for why I think it's wrong. First of all, I'm going to suggest that there is such a thing as biophysics. And by that, what I mean is that biology has its own rules that it adheres to. And there are some interesting forces at play, which I'll get into in a second. But first, let's take a look at the free will issue. Schrodinger, Adams, these other guys, they all say, you don't have any free will. You're just responding. How do they explain routine? Routine. The establishment of routine is presumably exactly the opposite of that. It is, in fact, behaving a certain way in the face of, in spite of, environmental stimulation. In fact, no environmental stimulation disrupts a routine. How could that be were there not some power, we will just call willpower, which is able to direct the mass, the matter in this universe at some level, whether it's through quantum phenomenon or, I mean, that would explain it. I mean, that would be a good way to, I don't think Schrodinger's theory accounts for an ability to manipulate the probability at the quantum level to produce movement of physical objects, which could very well be what's happening inside humans and, in fact, all life forms. But one thing we know, and that is that things can establish routines in the face of environmental stimuli, in spite of them, and they can overcome environmental stimuli. The willpower can also overcome the other forces of nature. I can lift this object in defiance of gravity. Now, I know that you're just going to say, well, what's actually happening here is my arm is part, and this is this chain of strong force, right, acting between the molecules. And it's, of course, much stronger than gravity, and that's why it's able to lift this thing. But what's activating the muscles? And as you drill down deeper and deeper, at some level, it probably gets to the quantum scale. And that's the only reason that, the only way that could make sense. But what we do know is there are some physics effects at the level of the willpower. Let me elaborate. For example, I'm going to establish this as a postulate in the realm of biophysics. If you take action in some direction, you create momentum for more action, the same action in that direction. Okay, so imagine the direction could be, imagine a point universe of nouns, and a direction can be towards any of the nouns, and if you move in that direction, you create momentum in that direction. There's another force at play. There's an intensity involved. The momentum that you create in the direction doesn't so much have to do with your physical mass. In fact, it seems to be wholly detached from the size of your body. Instead, it's the size of the dog in the fight, so to speak. The size of the dog in the body, the size of the willpower, right? And also how intensely you can manifest your willpower more intensely or less intensely. Like, let's say I'm doing push-ups and I get to the end. Well, maybe I've got an extra couple in there. If I manifest some more extra willpower to move some things around in the real world, it gets harder and harder, and it gets very hard very quickly at the end of your ability to create the willpower. And so that becomes a sort of momentum barrier, but the intensity that you create seems to carry forward. That is to say, if you try to do something really hard, even if you don't do it, the next time you can muster up the effort, the intensity, and you can use that to your advantage to move your body or advance some theory or hypothetical or objective, whatever that may be. And so there's at least a couple of forces at work in the biophysics world that we can identify. There's a momentum that has to do with past action and repetition, and there's a momentum that has to do with intensity. And those two things can enhance your willpower. If you want to do something in the world, the anti-willpower people will tell you things like, well, you can't even friggin' lose weight, right? You can't even go to the gym or, save money or other things that are difficult for people to do. We say difficult for people to do, but they're not impossible. And one way that you can make them easier to do is you can create an environment in which they're convenient, and thereby you remove some of the physical obstacles, and you also create some momentum, some mental momentum in the direction of accomplishing those tasks. And the anti-willpower people will also, I think there's a big crossover between them, and I could be just making this up, but between them and the people who say, don't follow your passion. Don't follow your passion in life, they say. Just do something really well, and then you'll be passionate about that. Okay, so let me break that down for a second. You can't do a thing well unless you do it a lot or you do it intensely. And most of the time, unless you have some kind of natural talent. For most people, the only way you can do something well is by doing it and doing it intensely over and over again and intensely. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have passion for it. The only way you're going to do that is if you like it. I mean, I see where these people are coming from. It's true that once you get good at a thing, you become passionate about it. It's direct ego inflation to accomplish something and to do it well. But the only way that's going to happen is if you can focus on it when the chips are down, when things aren't going so well, when all the environmental factors are against you, and you still maintain your routine. That's the only way you're going to get really good at something. Now, look, for a lot of people, if you're not exceptional, maybe this doesn't apply to you. If you're just a regular old person, average, totally average, pick something that you can help people in and do that. If you can't think of anything, you pick something where you can help people and just try to get good at helping people with that thing. Practice some skills, some use of technology. You can usually outperform people who aren't trying. But if you're gifted, if you're exceptional, you're going to have too many options to choose something that you're not passionate about. And it'd be too easy to get good at something because your parent made you do it or because you're in that environment for one reason or another. Then, well, I mean, like I said, if you get good at it, then it's over. But the only way you're really, really going to excel, I think, is if you choose something that you like to do, something that's compatible with your personality. Go take the Jordan Peterson personality test. It's only $10. $10. It's a really good thing. Takes about, 30 minutes to do. Is it 100 questions? It's not that long. But that's good. That'll tell you. Choose something that you're passionate about. Do the things you want to do, that you will to do. That is what your life should be. A directed life, a self-directed life. Don't believe these people who say you've got no free will. Don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second. Because if you have any free will, if you're able to influence your body at all, then you have at least some free will. Exercise that. Trust me. Happiness is doing. And there's something about exercising your free will and following your passion that makes it all worth doing. So do that. That's it. See you next time.